Stephen, how do you rate where Hearts are at the minute?
I think from the start of the season to now, they're in a positive. Yesterday's result is really disappointing. I think it's frustrating, disappointing. That's where everybody will feel at the moment, but I think they're still in a really good and strong position. It's definitely the result yesterday's a setback. Before the game, I had them as probably the favourites to get into third. I think the weekend's been a bit of a setback, probably puts Hibs in the pole position for it, but I look at the squad, it's healthy, there's a good quality of player, and I think a lot of the players that have come to the club are now comfortable at the club and the demands and things that go along with it. But I think post-split's going to be big, who can deal with the pressure games, and the team that does that most will get it, but everybody's in with a chance of third.
How much do you think opens up the Scottish Cup with Rangers being out?
For sure. Every club in that, in the competition at the moment, will be sitting there, one thinking it's a good opportunity to get through this round, but also without having both of the old firm or the two biggest clubs, they'll have an eye of going, it's a good chance to get out of a final if the draw goes your way. That, as a player, I felt that, you felt that at times. But it'll be a big ask, because obviously Celtic, I think, are a very strong team.
Hearts have obviously gone close regarding the Scottish Cup final in recent years. I mean, do you think the squad is capable of getting there and doing it?
Oh, for sure. I think in my time as a player there, we were consistently semi-finals, and we got to a few finals. Some performed better than others. The one, the Scottish Cup being the one after COVID, where you're so close, you're 2 penalty kicks away from winning it, and that's one that's you're bitterly disappointed. But I think Hearts have definitely got more than enough in that dressing room to get the trophy and win the trophy, and I know it's something that the fans are desperately craving for.
Can I ask you about Rangers, Stephen? And I know they're not playing this weekend, but what have you made of what's happened there in the last 10 days or so with Barry and the lads going in?
I think the change was probably the right time. I think I understood. I must say I understood a lot of what Philip Clement was saying in terms of what needs to happen. Unfortunately, in Scotland and being at the Old Firm that time and the inconsistency of young players doesn't marry. There's always going to be come to a boiling point, and then the two results of Queen's Park and St Mirren were the ones that obviously change. I think was inevitable after that. I must say I don't think anybody's seen Barry Ferguson coming in as manager, and even the change that happened, nobody's seen that coming. I think he's dealt with the media and the short time he's been there well. Second half at Kilmarnock is probably the closest you'll have seen to what's expected at Rangers, but what is concerning is the performance at the weekend on the back of that. I think everybody expects it to go. After the Kilmarnock game, you can see the reaction for the fans, for Barry and his staff and the players. You think then it's going to be explosive in the Saturday, but it's just, I think this season's repeated after all the time. The bad start, they get optimism for European result, it then dies again. The cup final that they lose, the performance isn't very impressive, but optimism dies down again, and the weekend's just another example of that.
Their next 3 games are 2 against Fenerbahçe and then Celtic. What's a realistic target for Barry and his backroom team to come out within those 3 games?
I think for him and everybody associated with it, I think there'll be a bit of hope, but also a bit of intrigue to go, can we get through Europe? Because that's where the positive performances have been. The Celtic game comes at a poor time for the club where they're at, but I'm just not sure if it doesn't go well, what happens for the rest of it. Like, it's done, everything's finished, and it's not a great place to be. So I think the next 2 weeks are very big for everybody involved, for Barry and his staff personally, to see what can happen in the future, for the squad, and just the all together engagement of the fans.
Barry said last week when he was appointed that he's looking no further than beyond each game. We've already heard that there's going to be a major overhaul in terms of potentially new owners coming in. Just for whoever does come in, if indeed there is a change of ownership, just how big a job is it to try and turn this institution around? Because at the moment it seems to be falling apart.
It's a massive job. It's, I think, short term, the only real way to close the gap and get competitive again is a takeover and large investment. I think that's probably clear. I don't think because of the time you're not going to get the time to bring in players that are projects that you're going to develop. That needs to happen in the background, if you like, but still have a competitive team. So short term, I think it's critical that this happens and they get more investment, because if you look at the way Celtic have performed and recruitment wise as well, it's been very good for the last 10 years, and Rangers have been playing catch up. So I think they need to close that gap quickly. The takeover brings a bit of optimism, but you still need to make the right choices and make the right decisions when you're recruiting, when you're picking a coaching staff and beyond. So there is a lot of work to be done.
Just the players to Barry, how challenging is it? You have a similar thing at Hearts when you go in as an extended period as a kind of interim manager. Do you maybe have to kind of not make them maybe the changes that you would like to make, or do you have to go easier because it is an interim period? Or?
I think you need to have in my position, I was never in the conversation to be the manager. I think I took over interim, and like you naturally do, I thought it's an opportunity. What's the worst getting happen? Now, I decided that I needed to show that one, I was capable, and how did I do that? Rather than set up defensively, hopefully win 1-0 every game, doesn't really progress you or yourself getting the opportunity of the job permanently. So I think Barry will have had that thought process, but ultimately if it doesn't go well and performances don't pick up, then he's probably got no chance. Whereas if things do turn and performances come and results come, then I think he will be considered. Having the longer period, I personally felt it helped me. It wasn't a case of there was a lot of pressure on two results, 3 results that you need to. I think having a longer period gives you more time to actually show more qualities that you can bring to the role.
How much of a point do that group of players have to prove? Because you talked about that cycle that they've been stuck in for quite a while, and pretty quickly almost reverted to the mean after that weekend. Do the players really have to take a lot of responsibility and have a point to prove to the supporters?
I think they do, but I'm not sure that they're capable of it. I think there is some in the squad that have got leadership skills, and you see that. I'm not sure there's enough of them. I'm not sure there's enough of them that feel the pressure and deal with the pressure. And that the European games are suited to them because they can be in a secure block, and they're good players at the club. So when that space appears, they make the right choice. They have a calm finish. But when it is challenging and it's nothing each with 20 minutes to go at Ibrox and the fans are demanding, who's still brave enough to make the right pass or take a shot at the right time, not just pass off the opportunity? That's the part that the players need to grasp the opportunity. I think as a player at the Old Firm, that's one, you need to deal with the pressure and get used to it. But secondly, you've got to see the opportunity and not be scared of it. I currently think too many are scared of that feeling.
I was just going to say, as it stands with the way the squad looks, and you talk about some not being capable of doing that, is really the only option when it comes to the summer is having to have a big overhaul and keep maybe the few players that do understand that, go out and replace the players that don't.
Listen, that'll be for the coaching staff and the management structure at the club, but you're not sitting here writing all the players off. There's players that have showed inconsistent good form at times. That's something to work with, but as I said earlier, that can't be the main focus of the club. The main focus of the club has to be competing and winning. That progression of these players can happen on the side, in the background, where there's not as much pressure on them having to perform every week. So I think the investment side of it has to come and be put into players that are ready-made to deal with the pressure and have a leadership and a mentality of winning. That for me is the thing that's been missing.
Steven, if you're an opposition manager and you see the Rangers on the ropes for the rest of the season, what are you saying to your team? Just go there with no fear.
Well, I think that's dangerous in some respects because, as they've sort of shown, Rangers, in the attacking sense, carry a threat and they can punish you. I think with every manager that's in charge of a team recognise the strengths and weaknesses, but when a team is vulnerable, it's not so much of playing with no fear, it's about also using the environment to your advantage. I thought Motherwell done that incredibly well at the weekend. They picked the right moments to attack, they picked the right moments to make the game slow, and they had a real game plan. I think that's probably what most managers will be looking at, because I think if you think, oh, there's nothing to fear here and go toe to toe, Rangers will still hurt you.
Stephen, you mentioned there a couple of times about lack of leaders there, don't embrace the pressure. Is there a mental weakness there within the players?
The mental side of it's something that playing for Rangers you need to have, and I'm not sure there's many bigger clubs that has a pressure like it. That's why you've seen some fantastic players who have played in other European leagues, bigger leagues in Scotland, fail at Rangers because they've not been able to deal with that. It's a crucial ingredient to have to be a Rangers player. This season, last season probably has shown that has been lacking at times. And I think part of it's probably even the game at the weekend. With 20 minutes, 10 minutes to go, Motherwell are not backs against the wall, panicking and clearing it anywhere. They're as comfortable as you can be at Ibrox, and that St Mirren game was the same. That's an issue that needs to change.
How do you see them getting on in Turkey?
I don't think anybody gave them a chance at Spurs at home. I don't think many gave them a chance at Olympiacos away, Man United away. So I still have a belief that they can get through the tie. It's not as great as it probably was a couple of weeks ago when they go through in Europe, but I still think they've got a chance because they have got good quality forward players at times.
Can I ask you, Tony Docherty at Dundee, on the ropes a little bit at the moment, he's taken some really heavy beatings, a couple of 6-goal deficits. How do you think he's coped with what's happened in the last couple of weeks? So you got a draw on Saturday against St John's.
I think he's coped well. I think he's experienced. I think with him being a relatively new manager, he's been a coach for a long time, so I think that shines through, and you can see that he has got an understanding, a calmness of where he is in terms of results. The hard part is he's had to turn over a squad quite a lot, and dealing with that itself is tough. I think the league's really competitive. I think most teams are well organised, which makes the margins much smaller. But I'm not sure people can just forget about the good work he's done over the last 18 months. I mean, he's done a brilliant job. Yes, they're going through a sticky period and it's tough times, but I've consistently said when I was in a job, when I've not been in a job, in most clubs in Scottish football, it's not going to be perfect all the time. You're not going to the next stage and the next stage. There's ups and downs. It's a rocky road. So I think he does need to be cut a bit of slack.
I think I just ask you, you've been out of the game for a few months now. Are you keen to get back in?
I think it's going to be a time to think about everything. Since I've been 15, I've been full-time in football. When you have an international career, there's not much rest time. When you go into coaching and management, there's less rest time. So I think it's gave me an appreciation for my family at the time off. I think going back in needs to be the right job. It needs to be something that you're willing to sacrifice a lot of your time, and something that you really believe in. I loved being a manager. I loved the intensity of it. In football, there's loads of different jobs and roles, more prominent now than there has been in the past. So I wouldn't rule it out. I've loved football. I love everything about it, and I think that if the right thing was there, I would definitely get back in. But I'm not going to be ruthless and just jump at any opportunity.
Just last question. You're telling us off camera that you've got a new hobby. How did that come about?
Got a few good new hobbies. When you've got loads of time in your hands, when I did lose my job, it was a big thing. I wanted to say, right, I'm going to challenge myself at something that I've not tried or done, and making sourdough became that thing. So it's been good. I enjoy it, make it most weeks, and it's tasting better every week.
Any good?
It's getting better, aye.
Good man, thank you.
Brilliant.
Thank you.
Thank you.